Hello everyone, welcome to the kdoty show. I'm your host, kdoty. Today we'll be talking about what's been going on with Iron Man in the past few years in comics, with the specific topics being Brian Michael Bendis' run as Iron Man, the Civil War II debacle, why Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, hasn't been that popular among comic fans, and last but not least, what's to come for the Armored Avenger, and what's been going on in the most recent Iron Man comic. Now, let's get started with an overly prolonged channel intro. So it all starts with well-known comic writer Brian Michael Bendis and Man Who Looks Like an Egg, who did a pretty good job with Invincible Iron Man Volume 1. Overall, the comic I think is really good. He had some great moments like that one. And the armor is probably one of the greatest creations by Brian Michael Bendis. The Model Prime Iron Man armor is incredible. So the Model Prime armor is perhaps the greatest creation by Brian Michael Bendis. Maybe even greater than Miles Morales. Okay, that's pushing it. But the Model Prime armor did serve as an inspiration for the Mark 50 in Infinity War. So did the Bleeding Edge armor, of course. They both did. You can see that there's a clear resemblance to both. So the Model Prime armor, it was so revolutionary because it utilizes nanotechnology, so Iron Man can just generate whatever constructs, whatever he wants, instantly. So if he wants, let's say, a repulsor cannon on his arm, boom, repulsor cannon form, just with his mind, it's one of the greatest things created by Brian Michael Bendis, and it uses like little pieces of like scale, like little scales that just form around Iron Man, and so it's, as you can see, Infinity War had the Mark 50 Iron Man armor was inspired largely by the Model Prime. So if you're still confused about the nanotechnology aspect of the Iron Man armor, just think of something like big condensed down into something small. So something big like folded down in a manner so it can fit in like something big can fit in like into a smaller object. So with the Model Prime armor, it's just, so it has like these little scales, as you can see, they reconstruct into like things like weaponry, and it just suits them around and like envelops them in a manner as I've previously stated. But the Model Prime is also an extremely powerful Iron Man armor, and it's kind of easier to draw since there's less curvy features and the mask is pretty simple. So, but despite the amazing Model Prime armor, one of Brian Michael Bendis' greatest creations, the comic does have some struggles, and it has a pretty good story, but it does have a few struggles. So long story short, superheroes come barreling back into Mary Jane's life, a fight with Madame Mask and Iron Man, and then Doctor Doom without the mask. Long story. That's not important though. Destroys where Mary Jane was like building her next chapter of her life. So she saves Iron Man, which is kind of dumb and irritating, but whatever. And she becomes a huge role in Iron Man Volume 2, The War Machines, where Iron Man wants to offer her a job to set Iron Man straight. But then, another long story short, which is Iron Man goes missing as he goes undercover for a reason that becomes really annoying at the end, and she has to stop this corporate takeover. So she's part of the Iron Man thing now. So Riri Williams is introduced as well. She makes her own iron suit that's rushed in there. It's just rushed in there. She makes her own iron suit. Okay, she's a genius. Now we go right into Civil War II, right from that, where Iron Man's in a super overpowered armor, and the comic writers are going to realize too late that Iron Man's side in Civil War II is the right side. So this comic is really bad, and you may or may not be already familiar with this, so I'm going to go real quick. There's this Inhuman, he can see the future, should you act on things that you know are going to happen in the future. Okay, sounds fair enough, right? Well, his visions of the future aren't exactly always correct, so there might be like a 5% chance or 10% chance or whatever that what he sees is going to happen. So Iron Man's like, no, you can't act upon this. And it's supposed to be like, whoa, the futurist says that. oh, that's a futurist saying you can't act upon things you know are going to happen in the future. That's crazy. But it turns out he's so in the right. It's unbelievable. And Captain Marvel's like, no, you have to act on these things. But it really just, it totally falls apart. As Captain Marvel she just goes crazy. Just says, okay, with really minuscule percentages, like probabilities of things happening. She's like, act on it. She's locking people up who haven't done anything wrong yet, but there's a really small chance they're going to do something wrong. She's getting War Machine killed in a stupid trying to ambush Thanos, and it's like, well, what? So War Machine's dead, and now she gets it's her fault when the Hulk gets killed too. It's just lots of deaths, but it's not well thought through because it's so obvious, just ridiculously obvious that Tony Stark is in the right. I'm not saying as an Iron Man fanboy. It's Captain America Civil War. Both sides are justified, so that's why it's such an interesting. It's a great movie because you can see the reasoning behind both sides, and that's why the Civil War comics were so amazingly successful and is one of the great masterpieces Marvel Comics has produced, because both Iron Man and Captain America's sides both were justified and both have valid reasons. So it makes it just so much more interesting, and it allows it to be good. That's why Civil War 2 is awful. Captain Marvel is ruined as a character, so now Marvel has to get us back into where we like Captain Marvel again, but she's utterly ruined. She's like the Stalin of Marvel Comics. She's just an utterly horrible character. It was basically just a whole justified thing just to get Iron Man out of the way, to bring in Riri Williams as Ironheart. But Riri is not the most likable hero. She's not well liked by fans, just to say that. So at the end of the day, Civil War 2 is just a mess and a prolonged excuse to put Tony Stark in a coma so we can revive him when we feel like it. So then we have Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, and she was never embraced by the comic community, just never. Unlike Miles Morales, who's already getting an animated movie where he's the main character of, which is incredible and just shows how likable and his flaws are likable, and he's just first off, unlike Ironheart, the costume is just simple, but it's really well done, and it's just extremely likable. And then the personality is really unique and it's far different than Peter Parker's and how he sees the world and his job as Spider-Man. Unlike Riri Williams, who's just a hero, like a little girl who's like, oh, man, I'm excited just to be here and just be like Iron Man, and I'm super smart, and she has no personality whatsoever besides that. And then and that personality would be fine if we have just so many characters right now. Kamala Khan, like Nova or whatever. They're all these young kids they're just happy to be Avengers and stuff, and Riri has just nothing else going for her. Her origin, why she's named Ironheart, is one of her friends was shot in the heart, which shows she's in it from a lesser economic area and whatnot, and it's fine. But the comic which they talked about it was utterly awful. Buildings are getting destroyed, and there's an exposition narration going on for much of the comic, and a building just gets getting destroyed by these monsters randomly. It's really, it's you can't take the comic seriously. It's not for older readers. It's just it's not good. Let's just say it's just really bad. So as Riri Williams' future in the Marvel Comics is unknown, Tony Stark and the classic Captain America and Thor trinity are back, and I don't know if it's going to be good or not, because first of all, the new Iron Man armor, quote unquote, looks exactly like the Extremis armor, and it's really depressingly just lazy that they're just going to recycle old armor designs. So that's not a promising start. So we don't know what's really in store for the future of Iron Man in comics. All we know is that in Iron Man 4 coming out in September, he's going to be dating the Wasp. It just seems like a money grab as Ant-Man and the Wasp is coming out. And I hope they really stop these money grabs. Really can't complain when the MCU is doing so well. And everyone's primary focus is whether or not Iron Man's going to survive Avengers 4 or not. So my stupid iPad is running out of storage space, so I'm gonna have to wrap this video up quick. So please like and subscribe. Say hello if you're from my Instagram, kdoty24, and do follow my Instagram if you love Iron Man. So ask me any Iron Man questions or comments, and I'll be sure to answer them in the comments below. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. There might be many more to come. Hopefully I get a better device than this stupid iPad, which is not cooperating. But peace out and go Team Iron Man.